How come you're still here? Seriously. Oh, thank you. All right. So this has been the second worst day of my life. I normally don't start my sessions with a negative note. I'm just waiting for people to come in. Good. They actually listened. That's incredible. Do you want to change this? Yeah. Thanks for coming back, guys. So I was saying this has been the second worst day of my life. I slept 3 hours for the last few days, jet lagged, and woke up at 7:30 today with horrendous news from back home. News that really reflects on how ignorant our region still is. So Rama started by saying, I love how Rama introduces herself by saying she's the chief optimist. I'm the chief realist. If you will accept that from me, I request permission to speak freely today. Can I speak freely, please? Okay, so what that means is no tweets, please. Can we not tweet anything I say? Can we not even post it on the app? Okay, there will be a video afterwards, that's fine. Deal? Yeah? Okay, good. So the title of our session, so this is the closing keynote. The title of our session was going to be the impact of technology on education, stability, and development in emerging markets, or in developing markets, right? Mainly we're interested in the MENA region. And I'll just take you through an observation that may lead you to understand how technology really works. Or maybe I should do an introduction, I'm so sorry. I'm the co-chair of TechWadi. I've been honored to work with Rana as her sidekick, if you want, to try and provide the success that we have here so far. I also am the head of business for Google X, which probably is the largest startup on earth. It's the place that is tasked by Google to build the next 10 Googles, if you want. Google X is the place where we build things like self-driving cars, Google Glass, Project Loon, and several projects in the energy space, and so many other innovations, a pipeline of innovations that would blow you away. I'll talk to you a little bit about how we do that, but first I'll start, as I said, with an observation that may take you a little bit to just understand how technology works in emerging markets. Then I'll ask you a question, and then I'll ask you to do me a favor. And after that, I will ask every one of the panelists and the speakers that has been, that is still with us today to come back on stage, and we'll open up for lots of questions for everybody. I noticed that there was interesting questioning some of our panelists, and we didn't have the time for that. So the observation is as follows. If you want to study the impact of technology on education, I wore a Pink Floyd t-shirt. Anybody remembers The Wall? Yeah, what did they say? What did they say? They said, we don't need no education, okay? And I'm going to be this provocative today because the reality of the matter is we truly do not need any education anymore. Okay, I cite a story around 12 years ago. My late son, Rabbana Yarhamu, was back home at 2 a.m. When I went home, I'm a big fan of koi fish. We had a large koi fish pond, and I built it in a way where it was totally natural, so I really did not use any mechanical filtration, if you want to. I just built an environment that had all of the ecosystem elements that were needed, including some snails. My son at the time must have been 10 years old. At 2 a.m., as I come back from a long trip, as I always do, he's staying there very concerned. And I say, Ali, what's wrong? He walks me out to the pond, and there are snails on the side of the pond. What they do, those snails, is when it's a little cooler, they walk out, and they're not in the water anymore. And I'm like, and he points at them and says, what is this? And I say, these are snails. And he says, no, you don't get it. These are apple snails. These are the exact same, he had a very, very sophisticated scientific name of whatever that, species of snails is, and said, this is an issue. And 10 years old. And I said, why is that an issue? And he says, because this snail only lives in Pacific Indo-Asia or some weird name. And and it's too hot for them here. When the morning comes, those snails will die, right? That was my 10-year-old observation, which people actually spend money to go to universities to learn. How did he do that? He Googled it, right? The reality of the matter is that if you think about technology, we build technologies in a way where we first have to learn how the technology works because technology is not capable of understanding human interfaces. Think of things like the mouse, right? A mouse is not the natural way where we point, but because there were no touch screens at the time, we had to teach humans how to use a mouse, right? As technology develops and becomes more capable, you get better processors, you get graphic processors, you get touch screens, and what you do is you touch the screen where you want. That's the natural way of interacting with anything. And so the mouse becomes irrelevant, if you want, and over time it becomes obsolete. And the problem is, as it becomes obsolete, we resist to make it obsolete. We resist to make it go to the grave because it deserves to go to the grave. So there is still an industry that sells a mouse today, right? Sooner or later, that industry will go away. I remember my IBM years where IBM refused to admit that personal computing was going to take over the world. For years and years and years, they continued to believe that mainframes were going to be the way things go. And you look at today and you realize that this is really not the case. They're gone, they're done, they're obsolete, they're irrelevant. Now, the challenge is sometimes we think of things that we take for granted, not as technologies, but everything that you have in your life today has been a technology one day, okay? So, education, surprise, surprise, sitting 24 kids in a classroom is a technology. It happened around the Industrial Revolution sometime, or maybe a few hundred years before that to teach people Quran or whatever, okay? And that technology was designed in a way that was not really the natural way. It was the mouse. It wasn't the way we learn. The way we learn is by observing, by discovering, by going around and finding true knowledge, not by classifying knowledge into economics, mathematics, and biology, because there is an economics, mathematics, biology, and geography to everything in the world. If I tell you growing corn in India has a bit of economics, a bit of agriculture, and a bit of a million other things, right? And a bit of geography and so on. So my observation that I want you to notice today is that technology is changing knowledge and education in a way where truly, truly there is no difference anymore between a Harvard student and the access to the information that a Harvard student has and my 10-year-old son, right? In reality, we're still sticking to the mouse. We're still telling the world that we're going to continue to sit in classrooms. We're going to continue to sit people in 24 students in a room and preach to them subjects that they don't even like, because that's how the technology works. Sooner or later, this is going to go away. Sooner or later, every student in the world, everyone that has access to a device is going to be able to learn the human way through discovery. Just think of what things like virtual reality are going to do to that. Now, I'll ask you the question and say, is that benefiting our region? Think about that for a minute. Is our region benefiting from that? Yes. Not many hands, right? It definitely is benefiting. It benefited my son, right? My son knew how to find out about the apple snail. Is it benefiting the region enough, I think is the question. Are we getting disproportionate competitive advantage by using the way that technology is propagating to actually make sure that we catch up with that Harvard student, not wait and find that the Harvard student is going further and further than where we are? And I really think the issue is, are we converging or are we diverging? Is what the internet doing to our region, is what technology doing to our region, is it's getting it closer to the advanced world, or is it getting us further away? And I think you know the answer to that. Saudi Arabia has the highest per capita consumption of YouTube videos in the world. How many of those are useful? Do you have any idea? I'm not even going to say the number. It's a shameful number. Yeah, maybe 12, total 12 videos. In reality, it's all about jokes and, which also is available in the US, YouTube. Huh? It's jokes and funny videos and, shooting someone with a fast car, and it's like crazy, consumption of useless crap, right? The reality of the matter is that a big portion of how YouTube changed the world, or Facebook, or whatever, is through tremendously useful content. I'm a huge fan of game theory. I go into serious depth of the theory on YouTube videos. It's all there, and no one is using it in our region. Now, what's going on in our region is that, and I respect very much what Fadi said, our region will survive. Huh? Our region will continue to be here in a while. I'm actually quite optimistic. I think we're at rock bottom. We're hitting rock bottom, and I'm saying where I'm the realist here. Huh? Think about ubiquitous distribution of devices in the developing world. Do you realize how many people don't have access to the internet today? More than 2/3 of the world population. The gap is spreading. Many of those do not have access. So everyone in our region has 2 smartphones. What do they use them for? Is there any useful content? How about the access barrier? How about the language barrier? Do people actually have any access to real knowledge in our region? Do people really have any access to real development in our region through the technology we have? Think about transparency. Think about rule of law. There was a question about rule of law, I think, today in the morning. We have serious issues. Think about freedom of expression and freedom of speech. We're actually going through several wars, if you haven't noticed. Okay? There is a massive displacement of population across the region. Massive displacement in a way that is really unheard of in our region before. Being a realist, let me teach you how X looks at that. Not teach you, maybe tell you what I learned, okay? Google X looks at every problem in the world and thinks of it as an opportunity. Because that's true. Displacement of massive numbers of millions of people is an opportunity. If you build a fabulous tent or find a way to educate people or do whatever it is, there is a ton of money in it, okay? Not only will it serve 1 billion people or tens of millions of people, but there is a ton of money in it. Think about devices. Just think about that, because these seem to be very big problems. Huh? We could build a device today at a bill of material cost of $30, $35, maybe $40 at most. To cover Africa, you need 760 million devices. That's every single African who doesn't have a device today. Say 1 million devices. Okay? At $35, that's $35 billion. That's no money at all. Just to put it in perspective, Dr. Osama was saying in the morning, $160 billion are going into ventures through different sources every year. The US spends $360 billion on charity, of which $54 billion go into education. Now, if someone is drastic enough to say, we're going to give a device to every human being, okay? A device to every human being on the face of the planet. You know how much that is? $250 billion. That's not a lot of money. That's less than the charity that is spent in the US alone. Okay? Now, that is seriously drastic. Now, why am I saying this? In Google X, we call them moonshots. Now, we spoke today about a ton of amazing things. We saw, Sue and what Sue is doing. We spoke about Kareem and how, we're doing Uber for the Middle East, and it's amazing. Okay? It's about time we look at the real problems, right? The real problems is the gap is really diverging. And there is a ton of money. Larry Page teaches us, he says, it's the toothbrush test. If there is a problem that affects the life of 1 million people or more, whereby if you solve it, people will use your product, twice a day. We actually, at Google X, we look for problems that affect 1 billion people or more, but let's say 1 million people or more, and they use it twice a day, you're bound to make a lot of money. Okay? Now, what I'm asking you to do is to actually think about it not from the opportunity point of view, but the size of the problem point of view. Okay? We need one great woman or one great man to go out and solve access to technology out in the Middle East. Someone to actually go out here and pitch and say, I need $10 billion. I'll find a way to get $10 billion and give a device to every human being in the Middle East. Okay? I'm going to look for a way to really solve the Syrian displacement issue. Okay? I'm going to look for a way to really, really solve the issue of rule of law. I've been hurt several times over, and I am a connected person by the rule of law in the Middle East. Okay? To do that, I'm going to make my own pledge, so I know I'm emotional today, I'm really sorry, but I made a decision in the morning. I shall no longer put money or time in a startup that's building the next Tinder or fashion application or copying Uber to the Middle East or whatever. I'm not going to do that. From now on, I will personally put in my time in startups that will solve the big problems. I know how to do that. Okay? I think there is a way to get those big problems solved, and I would really ask you, I know most of you are not going to believe in what I just said today, but we need one great man or one great woman. I hope one of you decides that we don't need another koi fish application. Okay? With that, I thank you very much, and I would ask our panelists to come back on stage for open questions for the rest of the day. Dr. O, are you coming? Rana, are you coming? Okay, so while they do this, let me just explain a few things. Google X, for example, took something like Project Loon. Project Loon is a problem that affects 4.5 billion people. 4.5 billion people don't have access to the internet today. A project of that size, if it works well, would have a potential of hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue. Solving big problems delivers big money. Right? If you think of self-driving cars, hundreds of billions of dollars of opportunity. Okay? So, questions?
I have a question. Hi, my name is Nabil. Quick question. For the whole venture wheel to work, right? You got the investment. There's also has to be a good exit strategy in the Middle East, the GCC countries, whichever. How can you solve that? I mean, we all don't hear of an IPO of specific companies coming out of that region, either listing locally or internationally. But how can that be solved?
Exits.
Exit? But exit comes with size. Exit comes with acceleration. Exit comes when a company is ready to be exited. It could be acquisitions. It could be IPOs. There are exits, plenty. If you don't hear about them, it doesn't mean they're not there. Plenty of exits. Arif Naqvi here is the king of exits. He's the biggest emerging markets investor, and he's found tens and tens of exits over the years. So they're there. It's a nice question mark that people put about the region, whether the public markets have, again, back to the issue of rule of law, the regulatory environment in the public markets have different challenges in them, and they're not too appealing for people like you and I, even though mine is public over there. They need to do a lot of work of reforming that so that they can allow for companies like tech startups, like companies that don't have the track record of continuous profitability over a very long period of time, like foreign ownership, investment restrictions, all sorts of stuff. They need to open up. Some markets have. Egypt has opened up. Jordan has opened up, but they don't have the depth and the liquidity that we require. But you know what? As the more startups you have, the more companies pop up, the more pressure you get on regulators to open that. But there is plenty of private money and private investors that would like to look at companies that are scaling to do acquisitions and to do exits.
And in many of the teams in venture capital in particular, they try to work on exit by design. And the way to do it is to build the profile of the potential corporate partners, as well as the business units within them. If you take a company like TELUS, which is a mobile telephone company in Canada, they basically say, if our business units sponsor a company, we will invest in it. And eventually, integrating the company into our business will help us achieve native margins. And as a consequence, from the beginning, if the attention is actually paid to connect with the heads of the business units, to show the synergy that can be to some extent created and to some extent augment the value, particularly of a public company, the chances of having a company exit within, let's say, 9 to 18 months by design, as compared to doing nothing, improve by a factor of 10.
Why don't we keep this one down?
Please allow me to speak in Arabic because I haven't spoken Arabic for the last 1 week.
I will translate for you.
أنا بدي أكفي اللي قالوا مو عن الحلول. المشاكل بالوطن العربي من زمان هي نفسها من 10 سنين وأنا كانتربرنور بسمعها هي. الحلول لازم تكون حلول جذرية وحلول ما حدا يعني يفكر فيها. وما لازم يكون فيها الحكومات من الآخر. الحل بسيط. فادي غندور بصير هو أمين عام جامعة الدول العربية. ماشي؟
You are condemning me to do nothing.
والله لا اسمع.
This is exactly the opposite of what I should be doing.
والله العظيم وراح تتذكر.
I need to translate. There are people that don't speak Arabic, by the way. So it's not fair. You're in Silicon Valley and you're speaking Arabic. You need to speak in the global language that everybody understands. The language that we speak is the people understand, not our own indigenous language.
المشكلة أحيانا بتعبر بالعربي هيك بتحس
يا
حالك.
أخي, you can in English. I know you're a good English speaker. I love Arabic, but you have to speak in English.
So our problems in the Middle East are drastic problems that will really need unthought of solutions. So my solution is to appoint Fadi Ghandour, the Arab League chairman, replace all the politicians who work and waste our money and time, 1 minute, and instead of having these members from the governments, you elect entrepreneurs members. And you issue entrepreneurs passport. Every entrepreneur who has this passport has access to all Arab world, trade license in all the Arab world, access to the market without any barriers. And we call it Ruwad Bila Hudud. Let them be role models. Because I am struggling. I've been in the Gulf for 17 years. Till now, I haven't figured out how to open an office in Saudi Arabia, honestly. And then I gave up. Because I have to, it's almost impossible to do that. Even inside the UAE, if you want to trade between 2 cities, you need to have 2 offices, 2 trade licenses, 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So there are so many barriers. And these barriers can only be fixed and problems by really drastic solutions.
Let's appoint you. How about that? Let's appoint you.
We get it. More. We get it.
If you want
this
to
is
create
an
the
old
next
story. But I want. So I appreciate. So I love what Mo said. Mo. He's also Mo, by the way. So we have 2 Mo's here. Mo number 1.
Everyone here is a Mo. Yeah. It's cheaper. It's the cheapest name in the region, so yeah, go ahead.
What we need to transcend the issue of thinking of barriers and thinking of solutions. So if plenty of problems. If I had waited or you had waited, you're doing business, I know. So we can complain forever, and I used to be the master complainer in the region, and then I decided that all my complaining is really irrelevant. We need to go out and do. So we can do. We will do incremental. It doesn't have to be drastic. Yes, we will say governments can do more, etc., etc. But there are a lot of people that are going out and innovating. There's no question about it. And back to Mo's, your issue, I love the fact that you're thinking about all these challenges that we have in the region in terms of challenges that require solutions, and this is where the innovation is going to come from. And the availability of alternative ways of learning through Googling something, or, well, Googling just because you're a Google guy, you can do it anywhere else for that matter, is the availability of knowledge ubiquitously without borders. So knowledge does not have to come from our region, even though we need to do that. So we don't need to wait and say, when is the next Arab gonna resolve this big problem? Let me say, when is the next big idea going to resolve a problem in the Arab world also?
I agree. So my view is that there is no way you can solve something so chronic at the top. Okay? You have to assume that the top is part of the challenge that you have. Now, you have a role to go and figure out how to open an office in Saudi and blog the hell about it, okay? And tell everyone in the Arab region, this is the right way to do it. I mean, Fadi shared in one word, he said, what was it, Cayman Islands or wherever, yeah? Right, that's the way, he believes this is the way to open an office, right? So find out, do it, make a difference, do something about it. I mean, you come here to Silicon Valley and you think Silicon Valley is working because of the government, because of the governor? No, okay? And appointing Arnold Schwarzenegger on top did not make any difference, right? The idea is that the ecosystem works. People who find something out, you walk out there and you ask anybody, hey, I don't know how to open an office in Saudi. I'm not joking. Okay? If you walk into Stanford and say, I don't know how to open an office in Saudi, there will be 17 people trying to help you out. Now, don't throw the problem back at people, okay? You solve your part of the problem. You have your little world to control. Solve your part of the problem and let the world know how you solved it. More?
Just taking a hint from the Arab League, my daughter's father-in-law is actually the Secretary
He fits
General.
for the Arab League, not me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because it has to be an Egyptian, by the way. So.
He is a very, very good man, and his son is even a better man. He works for Mo Gaudat at Google in Dubai. We were actually going to have a session today where someone from Udacity, the company that actually is to some extent credited, and its founder, Sebastian Thrun, with massive open online courses. Today they're actually on the road in Egypt in this particular case to bring in the computer science programs of Stanford University for free in Arabic to 2,000 electrical engineers. To do what? To bring in the level of education from 175 in the world to maybe 24. Eventually, for those who are passionate about computer science, to learn how to develop applications on Android. For the ones who develop applications that can scale, to bring them to Google Campus for 10 days for mentorship, and to sponsor them with $200,000 to expand their program. So I think there are so many wonderful initiatives, quite frankly, where people with passion, rather than people with visibility, are actually trying to transform the way we feel about each other from a cooperation perspective, from a hope perspective, and certainly from education for employment perspective.
A lady question. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I just, first of all, I'm very much inspired by what you're doing and what you're talking about, especially in the social startups and being solution-oriented. I just flew in late last night from Erbil in Iraq, Iraqi Kurdish region, and jet lag is starting to get to me, but one of the reasons and area that I'm passionate about is not only just the refugee humanitarian and development assistance, but the amount of youth in the Middle East and in Iraq and Syria, and their lack of engagement and employment. And so one of the things that I'm working with the government and the private sector here is developing the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So when we're talking about the earlier panel today, when Fadi and Ahmed and them were saying we were in the IVF or the baby's development, I think we need to even look at the sex ed developing before we even plan for that baby. And this is where I would like to challenge this group, and what I've loved from this perspective of everybody coming together is we need a working group and a commitment to action that actually says, look, we have these issues and we have these root causes, and we can't just keep on asking the government or government of other countries to invest in a grant perspective to help us and move things and all these challenges, but rather the private sector could come together and say, we have a region that is marred by 70% being under 30. This 2 million Iraqis just being displaced from the rest of Iraq into northern Iraq, all the Syrian refugees, et cetera. They have no education, no access to schools. What can we do about that? I know plenty of people who are entrepreneurs in the camps who I met, who are entrepreneurs who would be looking for like even $500 or $1,000 to start their ideas. There's no access to banking. There's no access to capital. How can we create a clearinghouse, a call to action, a community of practice and mentors that say, here's a region, here's a problem, here's a bunch of people who can make the things happen, this is what they need, boom, let's create a work plan and make it happen. This is what I would love to come out of this community, especially in the Arab American and the Middle Eastern American diaspora that I think we've been missing. It's from the social perspective. Thank you.
Okay, do we have an answer or another question? Okay, so as we move the mic, I'll comment very quickly on this. That's actually not what I asked for at all. So we don't have a committee at Google X that decides to go and solve the internet access problem of the world, right? And by the way, what I'm asking for is not a social entrepreneurship approach at all. There is a ton of money in solving problems, okay? We need entrepreneurs to go beyond asking for $1,000 and actually solve the real problems. That's what I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is not a committee and not someone outside us. And we need someone in this room to go and say, hey, there is a $500 million opportunity in the camps in Jordan, all right? And I'm going to find a way to solve their problem by making money, right? And there is money in that, and that's really the moonshot. The moonshot is not to expect that someone else will solve it, that we go and solve it as entrepreneurs. That's what we need to do. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, I just had a comment about the sex ed comment, which is previously we just had a panel on content. I'm from the Wikimedia Foundation, the foundation behind Wikipedia, and about Arabic content on Arabic Wikipedia, and no one was in the room for it. So I think that the majority of the time was spent discussing unicorns, and when it comes to talking about sex ed, nobody's in the room. I mean, I think it's a very interesting point.
I agree. So I'll comment on what you just said. I really think the priorities are put in the place where we put our gaze at, right? We focus on what we are taught is the right way to make money, right? And sorry to say, Arabic Wikipedia, perhaps not the right way to make money. We're startups here. In my view, there is a ton of money in it, right?
No, but Arabic Wikipedia is happening. It's being done.
Yes, I know this was what I was speaking about.
Yeah, it's being done. But Arabic Wikipedia is not is going to happen in Silicon Valley. It's going to happen back there.
Well, actually, the diaspora is
Good.
pretty the most
And that's why
active.
we're here. I think what we need from the diaspora is to tell us what their incredible exposure, like Rana, like Mo, like everybody that has had exposure that we don't have back there. We need to build that bridge. Tell us what's happening here that we don't see over there, and come over and do it. There are plenty of people that are doing massive amounts of things. Back in 2010, Abraj Capital and myself, we did something called Celebration of Entrepreneurship. We had an unbelievable amount of entrepreneurs who wanted to come and participate. That was back in 2010. Imagine today, if we do it, you're going to get tens of thousands of people are doing. I need to remind everyone here that even if half of this room is empty, there are tens and hundreds of entrepreneurs back home that are doing an incredible amount of things. Go to Rise Up in Cairo in December, Rise Up, and see the amount of Egyptian entrepreneurs that are going to pop up in your face and tell you, I am solving this problem, I am solving this problem, I need this help, I need mentorship, I need capital. There is lots happening. So as much as I am in agreement with some of the things that Mo said about depressing parts of the region has been like this forever, by the way. It is not new that we have wars in the region. Ever since I started building businesses back in the early 80s, there were wars. But it did not stop me, and it did not stop a lot of people from going out and doing stuff. So if we're going to worry only about ISIS, we're not going to solve the issue. Things are happening. There are 400 million people in the region. They're not all going to pack their bags and leave because ISIS is there.
Okay, I'm going to requalify that before we go to the next question. I'm not saying this is a disaster. I'm saying this is an opportunity. Okay, so if you see it as an opportunity, if you reset your mind that the challenges in the region are opportunities, you make money on that. Okay. We had a lady question here, so.
Just 1 second, please.
Yeah.
On the Arabic content, are we all familiar with Duolingo? So I think that the number of contributors now exceeds 100 million, and these are people either through catchas or otherwise are actually attempting to translate every single page of Wikipedia into Arabic. So if you were to look 5 years ago at the efforts being made by companies like Midan to actually translate courses into Arabic, today the extent to which the Arabic content is actually available online is really quite extraordinary. And I don't think that it is actually now, if you will, the barrier that is standing in the way.
So we don't lack mentors. We have a ton of really good mentors, right? We have a ton of crappy ideas being thrown at them, right? So I'm in my realistic mode today. I get 7 emails a day, right? And I cannot read 7 business plans a day. I cannot dedicate my life to that, right? If you really want to solve this problem, tell us how to focus the good mentors on the right problems, right? On the right startups. Because the truth is, there are a ton of good mentors, okay?
So this is really a little bit beyond an empirical study, but it is the result of what Microsoft has done when it tried to actually create an accelerator for the Azure program in the Middle East, actually, based in Dubai. Maybe as strange as it sounds, but it turns out that for a company to accelerate, they need an average of 4 mentors per company. And it actually becomes an absolutely magnificent coalescence of consensus between them as to how to engage mind and heart to achieve the objectives, rather than, as you said, and this is a problem we're familiar with, بقول لك انت ما انتش فاهم، لا انت عامله غلط. No, not that type of thing.
I have a comment, if I may, or question. First, I want to thank everyone for putting this day together. My name is Moffat Sidawi. I'm a professor at the University of San Francisco. Knowledge and insight are really crucial in changing the world around us. I think every student that we mentor and help through education and joining with companies can become change agent and ambassadors for their own community. So I invite everyone in this room to join us in a journey where we can really work together. I think education, academic institutions, and companies are 2 sides of one coin: success and world change. So I just want to invite everyone to join us in this to really make the world a better place for every single community. I think we need to be in partnership and not working in isolation. There is a huge gap between academic institutions and companies today. So thank you.
Hey, Mo? Shall we wrap up? Wrap up? Wrap up?
We can wrap up if there are... Who wants to wrap up?
I think we will.
Okay, so do you have a question or do you want to wrap up? Let's ask the audience. The audience, do you want to wrap up and go have fun? Yes? Who said yes? Okay, those who said yes, feel free to go. Those who have questions? Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm actually serious. No one's tying you to the seat. If there are others who have good questions, let's keep the conversation. Do you mind?
No, I don't
Okay,
mind.
let's do that. Yeah, we are getting a very serious bias of male questions to female questions. If we want equality, then females need to step up here. Right, okay.
Hi, I'm passionate about the Middle East, and I think that, like you said, there needs to be a solution, maybe outside of education, that need to revisit the source of the problem. So according to the Maslow pyramid of basic needs, at the bottom, rest, housing, food is there. So we have camps which are really in horrible conditions. There are plenty of ideas that could come out from there that could actually improve the people's life. And what I'm proposing is like something like an IKEA of things for underprivileged people. Like a very simple solution that would bring people those basic needs that they actually need. For example, like a stackable house, like giant Legos, in plastic that you put together, something simple that you can put together and that you can take out and remove. That's it.
You have a question or you want to comment? Okay, so now we're talking. Okay, so you've spotted one of the biggest problems in the Middle East. Maslow, we're at the bottom, right? And shifting, surprisingly, you ask any African telco, for example, how much money they made by serving the people at the bottom, right? There is money to be made. There is money to be made by removing the corruption and waste that is, and the prevention that is really preventing aid from going to Syrian refugees. There is money to be made from building housing. South Africa did it very, very well. Johannesburg, if you had gone 10 years ago and you go today and see at the low-income housing and how they built them, tremendous amounts of money, tremendous relief for the economy. So you're absolutely right. Great ideas. You have a question.
I actually have a question for everyone. I'm very curious to know if if there's any, after attending today, is there anything, like by show of hands, are you going to walk out of this, who's going to walk out of this with doing something different or something new for the MENA and entrepreneurial scene?
That's great. I'm just wondering what we should do about the ones who didn't raise their hands. So anyone who didn't raise their hands, we're going to have to stay after class. That's okay, yeah.
Actually, I want to chime in on that thought too. So we're evolving as Techquery, and I just want to really sincerely open the ground for feedback, for input. How can we do things better? How can we engage with you all? There's great ideas here, great energy, and we just want, we want higher engagement. So I'll, reach out.
Quick comment about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a valid pyramid, of course, and it's very true that if you don't have security and if you don't have water and food, then almost everything else becomes irrelevant. But of course, during that time, it was a slightly different culture, related to self-actualization and self-realization, very, very self-centered. But I think in just about every single instance where you meet people such as yourselves, you will find something that AT&T discovered about maybe 30 years ago. They did a poll trying to find out what would make their employees happy, and more or less expected either a promotion or a higher salary. However, the one thing that came out universally across all departments was the need for achievement.
For the sake of shifting the bias from, I guess, male voices to female, I'm going to start talking. So I am the representative of Udacity, actually. So I'm Salwa Noor Mohammed, the Vice President of Student Services, and I think Udacity was mentioned earlier. Because of some, I think, mismanagement here with panels. The panel did not happen, but I wanted to offer myself up for any questions in talking about the program that we just launched in July in Egypt. It is actually a localized version or Arabic version of the Android development program in partnership with Google and the Ministry of IT. We launched the pilot program in English with 100 students in July, and we're going into the first group of presenting the training in Arabic. And I'm open to either discussing the program or talking about it with a goal of 2,000 graduates who will be Android developers within a year. Thank you.
My name is David Mounir Napti, and I'm a Silicon Valley native, but I moved back to Lebanon about 11 years ago. So I did not actually raise my hand about the conference if it changed how much I'm going to be doing for entrepreneurship in the Middle East, because I don't think I could actually physically be doing anymore. But I'll tell you, one of the challenges that we've had, we actually wanted to have a focus of our work primarily be around for-profit social entrepreneurship in Lebanon and the region going back for the last 7 years. And actually, we kept running into a lot of barriers that it was much easier to get support for entrepreneurship versus social entrepreneurship, even if it was around for-profit. A lot of people thought that the social side meant that it was connected to just NGO work, or that it was soft, or it was ineffective, et cetera. And actually, one of our goals initially when we started doing work in Alt City 4 years ago was we thought, the sort of thought process was, what could we do to help support the formation of 1 million social impact jobs in the Middle East over 10 years. And when we started talking to people about that, they actually thought we were pretty crazy and discouraged us from talking about that. So we kept doing our work and we kept growing, and things are going well in Lebanon. And we're starting to do a bit more work in the region, and we're thinking of restarting that. But of course, it can't be with us alone doing that. It would have to be with a network of folks. So if there are people who are passionate, and we actually use the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals as a sort of market study for looking at what is core problems in the world and what are those as opportunities, and then we overlay those with regional problems and local problems in Lebanon. So if there are people who are passionate about that around the social enterprise side, we'd love to see how we could connect and build that movement in the Middle East.
Yep. Rama, one second. Who wants to wrap up? Okay, you want to wrap up or you want a question? So we'll have Rama's comment, question, and then. So when you feel like wrapping up, just nod a little, and then Okay, yeah. Rama?
So I'm actually one of the other people who didn't raise their hands about being inspired to do something, not because there isn't much to do, but because I'm just at a loss with the magnitude. Being chief optimist at Barakabits, I'm still bewildered every time I go to the Middle East at the scale of the challenges, especially with Syrian refugees that have compounded the Palestinian and the Iraqi. Yet these are individual people, and when you speak to them individually, they have lives, they have contributions, they can do so much. So my question is there something like a combination of a Kiva with a BuzzFeed that can give us information about the humans and allow a human-to-human connection? I'm tired of seeing sensationalized images of a child on a beach, because for that one child, there are a million that are without anything. And, and also there are a million entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs. So where is the BuzzFeed-like that combined with Kiva could actually transform all of their lives? And I'm sorry, I get a little emotional, but it's really like, where is really the technology plus media that informs the American public who wants to act and wants to do something?
You're spot on. So you're spot on, Rama. So I don't know, I have many of you as friends on Facebook, and I just took a vacation from Facebook. I publicly said I'm going to not to be there for the next 45 days. Of course, inside my heart, I was really planning not to be there for the next 45 years. You know, the truth is, you're absolutely right. So what's happening in our region is that the noises on wasted time and useless topics is so high that the real issues are buried. Okay, the real issues are below. Actually, one of the startups that I invested in a while ago was Wael Ghonaim's startup, who's trying to really have a quality conversation on the internet, trying to make, you know, to create a topic that really goes in depth and deserves the attention. This is not a Middle East specific issue, but it is definitely a magnified issue in the Middle East. And there is a success story behind it, surprisingly, from Israel. So you would look at how the media machine of Israel really magnifies the real issues rather than the non-issues. For them, whatever the issue is for them, and you learn something. You learn that the community, the Israeli community, and I have, you know, I work with a lot of people from the Israeli community, and I respect a lot of people from the Israeli community. The influencers, which are, by the way, you in the room, sign up to the cause. So the reason I took a vacation from Facebook is I realized that with my selfies, I was increasing the noise, right? The only way is for us to decide to only boost what deserves to be boosted. We should be ambassadors. There is no tool. I think the issue is that the noise is so much and it's total waste. So I don't have an answer, unfortunately.
Can I just add something? I mean, I still think that I might, you know, you can see it as a disagreement with the billion, you know, solving a problem for a billion people. What I see firsthand from the region is that people are looking for an excuse to be positive, and I've seen it with people celebrating even small successes, even a small positive. And I see it even on Facebook when you have a piece of good news and how that circulates. And even if it's not necessarily solving a big problem, I see that if a company out of Egypt raises a very big round, people are celebrating this because that really gives hope for people. And I think we have to, you know, deal with the hand that you're dealt, right? And you have to look at leveraging everything that you have access to as a person, if not as an organization, and see how this can really help make a difference, even if it's for a small group of people. But I think you can still look at what you have access to and see if you can pass it on to someone else.
Two things. One, I think one of the most things that I learned in the past 4 years is that the hardest thing is to create success, not to just, you know, advertise about it. And if each and every one of us focuses on him and herself and creating a success story, right? We don't have enough success stories. We need to create as many success stories as possible. And this will happen by our collaboration, right? Even if we don't like each other. And the second thing was Amar's talking about. We need to work together to be happy and to celebrate other competitors who are like us, who are maybe doing success stories that might be competing with us. And this is something that I was dearly, was hurt that some people, even if they're, competing with you and they know that you're succeeding, but would never advertise, someone's success because of some personal grudges. I think we should be above that and be very happy to have, people like Lu'ay and Dr. Osama and Amr Shadi and Rana. These are amazing people. And so number one is we work on ourselves and creating as many success stories as possible. Number two, we should work together, even if we're competing, to advertise and celebrate success, because this is beneficial for everyone in the region. So
Okay.
Hi, oh, sorry. I didn't realize how loud it'd be. Just to piggyback off of what you're saying, my name is Wala Arakat, and I volunteer for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, which is a non-for-profit organization that provides medical treatment for children all over the Middle East. And just being here and learning about, seeing all of these different successful people, I want to bring more out of the region by starting off, which I haven't heard much about, but with the kids, bringing children here, sending educators there, starting off, at the bottom to bring more people like us out of the region. And so what we're doing is trying to start a program like that. So if there's anybody who's interested in helping the children of the Middle East who have mental disabilities, physical disabilities, who don't have the opportunities that we all out here have, come talk to us and offer your advice, mentorship, facilities, anything that you have, knowledge, education, anything that you have, please come talk to us. And thank you all for this amazing event.
Hi. So I'm neither an entrepreneur nor an investor, yet I do see entrepreneurship as a means of going against notions like rule of law that marginalize voices and opportunities that we are seeing in the Arab world today. And there are many people like me. So my question is, how can people like me facilitate or work alongside entrepreneurship to tackle these fundamental problems that we are talking about right now?
Get involved with Techonomic. we'll find something for you.
I will say that the main message I'm trying to say today is that each of us can champion something. Small or big, it doesn't make any difference. Own it or volunteer to help, it doesn't make any difference. But what I have been blown away with when I came here to this part of the world is how often people believe in something, right? People just believe in something. They follow it. They follow their passion. They put part of their time behind it. In Google, we call it 20% time, right? Doesn't matter what your passion is. Is it rule of law, or is it, getting children, with disabilities to be supported in the Middle East, or whatever that is? I really, really think the issue is we try and focus on the opportunities, and I respect that 80% of the time. I'm just saying 20% of the time, focus on problems that you try to champion, you try to change. And just don't ask for our help. Actually, ask us to help you, to go work for you. Because if you're passionate enough about it and you champion it, you really are going to carry the flag and make people follow you. And that's what I see over here that I don't see. So that's a great question. That's a great question. So That's a great question. So so that's a great question. The question is, don't you think we need a common vision and a common direction, and don't you think we need involvement that really changes the infrastructure issues and the environment issues and the challenges and so on? Yes, we do. It would be wonderful to have those, but do we have them? On some fronts. So I don't disagree.
You know, the governments lack visions, and they end up like having stars, like, you know, people who make a lot of money, and that's great, but that doesn't solve the problems of the poor people, of the other people who need these problems to be solved. Like electricity, like Mr. Ahmed here was telling me, in North Iraq, there's no electricity, and they pay a lot of money for that. So how would you tackle the basic fundamental needs of the people?
There is no electricity is a problem or an opportunity?
It is both. In a problem comes opportunity.
Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
I just want to share an inspiring story from one of our partners / investors. He's Swedish, and over the weekend, he actually built an app called LetMeHelp.today to help Syrian refugees get help from people who want to help. And he's Swedish. He did it over the weekend. He's a pretty busy man, but because he wanted to help and he was proactive about it. I just wanted to share that because I was.
That's a great example. So let me try and explain what I see. So I work in a place where ideas pop up from down, get executed grassroots from the bottom, and are managed directionally from the top. Right? It's neither nor. Okay. Now the only thing I've learned in the Middle East is you and I need to be realistic around the fact that it might actually take us a bit of time to get electricity to Iraq. You would agree with that. So should we wait, or should one of us champion something that makes a difference, that addresses this environment as reality and does something about it? You're absolutely right. We need a vision, we need direction, we need infrastructure, we need governments that are focused on the right issues, executing. We need Fadi to be the head of the Arab League. We need all of that, right? But we don't have it.